The rain-slicked banks of the Chicago River gleamed under the sodium lights of the industrial district, where the air hung heavy with the metallic tang of rust and diesel. Fog rolled in from the water like a living shroud, muffling the distant hum of tugboats and the occasional blare of a horn echoing off the warehouses. It was the kind of night where shadows clung to everything, and the line between safety and peril blurred into the murk. Lena Harper, a social worker with the city's underfunded child services, had been driving home from a late shift when she spotted the small figure. Her old sedan splashed through puddles on the access road, headlights cutting through the downpour when she saw him, a toddler, no more than 3, standing perilously close to the edge. He was black, his dark curls plastered to his forehead, wearing a soaked jacket that swallowed his tiny frame. No parents in sight, just the relentless lap of the river against the concrete pilings. She slammed on the brakes, heart pounding, and jumped out without a second thought. "Hey, little one, what are you doing out here?" Her voice cut through the rain, but he didn't turn, his small hands gripping the rusted railing as if it were a lifeline. The water below churned black and unforgiving, swollen from the storm. Lena approached slowly, her sneakers squelching in the mud, the chill seeping through her coat. She knelt beside him, keeping her distance to avoid startling him. "It's okay, sweetie. Let's get you somewhere warm." The boy finally looked up, his wide brown eyes reflecting the city lights like polished obsidian. He didn't cry or reach for her. Instead, he tilted his head, studying her with an unnerving calm. "Monsters," he said simply, his voice barely audible over the rain. "They come from the water." Lena's stomach twisted. Kids said wild things, especially ones exposed to trauma. But this felt different, raw, unfiltered fear. She scooped him up gently, his body light and shivering against her. He didn't resist, just buried his face in her shoulder, the scent of wet wool and something faintly sweet, like baby shampoo, clinging to him. As she carried him back to her car, she scanned the shadows, empty lots, chain-link fences topped with barbed wire, the hulking silhouettes of abandoned cranes. No sign of anyone. How had he gotten here? The riverfront was no place for a child at midnight. Back in the car, she cranked the heat and wrapped him in her spare blanket from the trunk. "What's your name, buddy?" she asked, pulling out her phone to call it in. Dispatch would handle the paperwork, but protocol demanded she secure the scene first. "Jamal," he murmured, clutching a small toy truck in his fist. It was battered, plastic wheels caked in mud. "Daddy says monsters hide in the dark." Lena nodded, forcing a smile as she noted his details. No last name yet, but she'd run a check. The radio crackled to life with her report, but before she could finish, headlights pierced the fog behind them. 2 sleek black SUVs, emerging from a side street like predators from the mist. They pulled up alongside her sedan, blocking the road. Lena's pulse spiked. She locked the doors, her free hand hovering over the gear shift. The driver's door of the lead SUV opened, and a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, in a tailored overcoat that repelled the rain like oilskin. His face was half-shadowed, but the sharp jawline and the way he moved, with deliberate economy, screamed authority. 2 others flanked him, their postures alert, hands near concealed holsters, no badges, no lights, just presence. "Ma'am," the man called, his voice low and steady, cutting through the storm. "That's my son. Hand him over." Lena's grip tightened on the wheel. Jamal peeked out from the blanket, his eyes lighting up. "Daddy!" The man, Victor Kane, she would later learn, the reclusive magnate whose name whispered through the city's underbelly like a curse, approached her window, rain dripping from his dark hair. Up close, his eyes were steel grey, assessing her not with threat, but with a cold calculation that made her skin prickle. "You saved him. For that you have my gratitude, but he's coming with me now." She hesitated, protocol warring with instinct. This wasn't a standard pickup. The boy's recognition was genuine, but the entourage screamed trouble. "I'm with Child Services. I need to verify." "Verify later," Victor interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. He rapped on the glass. "Open the door. The river's no place for questions." Jamal tugged at her sleeve. "He's good, miss. He hurts monsters." Lena's mind raced. The SUVs idled with a low growl, exhaust mixing with the fog. No sirens in the distance, no backup on the way. Calling it in now could escalate things, and the kid was safe in her arms, for the moment. Curiosity gnawed at her. Who let a child wander to the river's edge? And what monsters did a toddler fear in a city like this? Reluctantly, she unlocked the door. Victor opened it, leaning in to lift Jamal effortlessly. The boy beamed, small hand clasping his father's larger one. "See? I found her. She chased the monsters away." Victor's gaze met Lena's, a flicker of something unreadable passing through. Debt, perhaps, or intrigue. "Your name?" "Lena Harper." He nodded once, committing it to memory. "You'll hear from me, Miss Harper. Dinner, tomorrow, to repay the debt." It wasn't a request. The weight of it hung in the air, like the storm clouds overhead. As he turned back to the SUV, Jamal waved from the window. "Bye, monster chaser." The convoy pulled away, taillights fading into the night, leaving Lena alone with the rain drumming on her roof. She sat there, engine humming, questions swirling. Who was Victor Kane, really? And what had Jamal meant by monsters? The river whispered against the banks, as if holding its secrets close, but as she drove off, a chill unrelated to the weather settled in. In her rear view, she caught a glimpse of another set of headlights, distant, unhurried, trailing just beyond the fog, watching. The next morning dawned grey and unrelenting over Chicago, the kind of light that seeped through Lena's apartment blinds, like diluted coffee, casting long shadows across her cluttered kitchen table. She sipped her black brew from a chipped mug, staring at the notepad where she'd jotted down the night's details, Jamal's name, the river location, Victor's description. Her phone buzzed with a text from dispatch, routine follow-up on the found child report, but nothing flagged as unusual. No missing persons alert for a toddler matching Jamal's. Yet the unease from the trailing headlights lingered, a knot in her gut she couldn't shake. Work dragged her back to reality. At the Child Services office in a squat brick building downtown, the air smelled of stale coffee and printer ink, fluorescent lights humming overhead like a swarm of distant bees. Lena filed her report, keeping it factual. Child recovered from riverbank, reunited with father on site. No signs of neglect, she noted, though her pen hesitated. Jamal's calm demeanor, the monsters talk, it all felt off, like a puzzle piece forced into place. Her supervisor, a harried woman named Rita, with reading glasses perpetually askew, glanced over the paperwork. "Kane, huh? That name rings a bell. Keep it clean. We don't need heat from the big shots." By afternoon, Lena's shift ended early, leaving her with too much time to think. She walked to her car in the parking garage, the echo of her footsteps sharp against the concrete pillars. Rain from the night before had left puddles reflecting the overcast sky, and as she fumbled for her keys, a black sedan idled at the exit ramp, windows tinted, engine a low purr. It didn't move as she passed, but the driver's eyes followed her in the side mirror. Coincidence, or the first thread of something tighter? The invitation came that evening, not by phone, but by courier. A sleek envelope slipped under her apartment door, sealed with black wax. Inside, crisp cardstock read, "Dinner at 8 p.m. The Dockside. Victor Kane." No RSVP needed. The address was a private club on the river, the kind whispered about in cop bars, neutral ground for deals that never saw daylight. Lena paced her living room, the worn carpet muffling her steps. The faint scent of her neighbor's cooking, garlic and onions, wafting through the vents. Why go? Gratitude for the save, sure, but curiosity burned hotter. Jamal's words echoed, monsters from the water, and Victor, his steel gaze, the effortless command. She needed answers, if only to assure herself the boy was safe. She dressed simply, dark jeans, a fitted blouse, her leather jacket against the evening chill. No makeup beyond a swipe of lipstick. This wasn't a date, just reconnaissance. As she stepped onto the street, the same black sedan from the garage waited at the curb, a driver in a crisp suit holding the door. "Mr. Kane sends his regards, Miss Harper. He'll meet you there." Lena's pulse quickened, but she slid in, the leather seats cool and supple under her. The car smelled of polish and faint cigar smoke, the partition up, sealing her from the driver. They glided through traffic, the city lights smearing past like neon veins, towers of glass and steel giving way to the industrial fringe. She tested the door handle, child-locked. Paranoia, maybe, but the river's pull felt closer already. The air thickening with humidity. The dockside loomed on a pier jutting into the Chicago River. Its facade a mix of weathered brick and modern steel beams, floodlights cutting through the dusk like search beams. Valets in tailored vests nodded as the sedan pulled up, but no other cars dotted the lot. Just shadows of docked yachts bobbing gently, their hulls creaking against the pilings. A hostess with a wireless earpiece led Lena through a foyer of polished oak, the murmur of low conversation filtering from private booths. The scent of seared steak and aged whiskey hung in the air, undercut by the briny tang from the water outside. Victor waited at a corner table overlooking the river, Jamal asleep in a high chair beside him, a blanket tucked around his small form. The magnate rose as she approached, his suit jacket unbuttoned, revealing a crisp white shirt. Up close in the warm glow of pendant lights, the lines around his eyes spoke of sleepless nights, but his posture was unyielding, like a man who'd stared down worse than storms. "Miss Harper, you came." His voice was gravel over silk, a faint accent, Eastern European perhaps, coloring the edges. "Lena," she corrected, sliding into the seat opposite. A waiter materialized with menus, but Victor waved him off. The osso buco and wine, something bold. To her, "You like red?" She nodded, scanning the room. Two men at the bar, nursing drinks, their gazes flicking her way too often. Security, no doubt, earpieces hidden, bulk straining jackets. Jamal stirred, rubbing his eyes, and beamed at her. "Monster chaser, you came to eat with us." Lena smiled, ruffling his curls gently. "Couldn't miss it, kiddo. How's the blanket fort at home?" Victor's expression softened fractionally as he watched the exchange. "He's been talking about you non-stop. Said you fought off the shadows by the water." He leaned forward, elbows on the linen tablecloth, the silverware glinting like tiny blades. "Truth is, he slipped his nanny during a walk. River's edge. Dangerous. My fault for the oversight." The food arrived. Tender veal shank, rich with herbs, steam rising in lazy curls. Lena cut into hers, the knife scraping porcelain. "Slipped away how? No alarms, no calls?" A shadow crossed Victor's face, quickly masked by a sip of wine. "Family business keeps us. Insulated. Private security, not the city's finest." His eyes met hers, holding. "But you acted without hesitation, rare in this town." She probed gently, fork pausing. Jamal mentioned monsters. Kids imagine things, but he seemed scared. Real scared. Victor glanced at the boy, now dozing again, toy truck clutched in his fist. The world's full of them for a child like him. Rivals, whispers in the dark. "I protect what's mine." The words carried weight, a code etched in his tone. Legacy, restraint. No innocence harmed, his eyes seemed to say, but the line was thin. As dessert arrived, chocolate torte dusted with powdered sugar, the conversation shifted. Victor's questions drawing her out, her caseload, the burnout of social work, the river's pull on solitary nights. He listened intently. Grey eyes unblinking, but Lena caught the tells, a subtle tap on his watch, a glance toward the door. Surveillance, embedded in the evening's rhythm. Outside, as the driver pulled up again, the river lapped insistently at the pier, fog rolling in thicker now. Victor walked her to the car, Jamal waving sleepily from the doorway. "This debt isn't settled, Lena. Stay vigilant." His hand brushed her arm, brief, electric, before he stepped back. The sedan hummed to life, gliding away from the dockside. But in the side mirror, Lena spotted it, a nondescript van, headlights off, easing from the shadows of a nearby warehouse. Following, not Victor's. Then whose? And what had Victor left unsaid about the monsters his son feared? The sedan's tires hummed over the rain-slicked asphalt as it merged onto the expressway, the Chicago skyline receding like a jagged memory in the rear view. Lena shifted in the leather seat, her fingers drumming the armrest, eyes flicking to the side mirror every few seconds. The nondescript van lingered 2 cars back, its battered white paint blending with the late-night traffic. But its pace matched theirs too precisely, unhurried, deliberate, not Victor's sleek convoy. This felt grubby, opportunistic, like a stray dog sniffing for scraps. She leaned forward, pressing the intercom button. "Driver, you see that van back there?" White, dented fender on the driver's side. The partition hummed down slightly, revealing the driver's profile, clean-shaven, earpiece coiled like a snake. "Stay calm, Ms. Harper, I'll handle it." His voice was flat, professional, but he accelerated smoothly, weaving into the left lane. The van mirrored the move, headlights bobbing in the spray from passing semis. Lena's pulse quickened, the cabin's polished scent turning cloying under the strain. She pulled out her phone, snapping a quick photo of the license plate through the tinted glass, IL 4782X, blurry but legible. A quick search later might yield something. Child Services had access to basic databases, and her gut screamed this wasn't random. The driver took the next exit abruptly, tires squealing as they plunged into a maze of industrial side streets, warehouses looming like silent giants, chain-link fences rattling in the wind off the lake. Floodlights cast harsh pools on gravel lots, the air thick with the brine of Lake Michigan mingling with oil and rust. The van hesitated at the intersection, then followed, its engine growl echoing off the corrugated metal walls. Lena gripped the door handle, half expecting it to be locked again. "Who are they? Victor's rivals?" No answer. The driver radioed something terse into his earpiece, the static crackle sharp in the confined space. Ahead, a narrow alley cut between 2 derelict buildings, sodium lamps flickering like dying stars. He gunned it, the sedan fishtailing into the gap, scraping a dumpster with a metallic screech. The van braked hard behind, unable to follow, the alley too tight for its bulk. It idled there, a shadow puppet against the light, before peeling away with a rev of frustration. Lena exhaled, her breath fogging the window. Nice driving, but that wasn't the end of it. The driver nodded curtly as they emerged onto a main road. "Mr. Kane's enemies are persistent. You're under watch now, ours and theirs. Get home safe." He dropped her at her apartment building, a modest 6-story walk-up in a neighborhood of corner bodegas and fire escapes draped in laundry. The lobby smelled of linoleum and faint mildew, the elevator groaning upward like an old complaint. Lena's key turned in the lock with a familiar click, but as she stepped inside, the hairs on her neck rose. The air felt displaced, curtains swaying slightly, though the window was latched. She flicked on the lights, scanning the living room, thrift store couch, stacks of case files on the coffee table, a half-dead ficus in the corner. Nothing obvious out of place, but her laptop bag on the kitchen counter sat askew, zipper half open. Had she left it like that? Paranoia or caution? She crossed to it, pulling out the device, screen intact. But when she booted it up, a notification pinged, an unfamiliar email in her inbox, time-stamped an hour ago. No subject. The body was simple. Stay away from the river. Some debts aren't worth collecting. Attached was a grainy photo, her sedan at the riverbank last night, Jamal in her arms, the timestamp matching the storm. Lena's stomach dropped. How? Her dash cam? No, this angle was from across the water, elevated, like from a bridge or a drone. She forwarded it to her work email for safekeeping, then dialed Rita at Child Services, voice low, as if walls had ears. "Hey, it's Lena. That kid from last night, Jamal Kane. Run a deeper check and see if this plate pops. IL 4782X. Rita's response crackled through, tired but sharp. "Kane? Girl, that's a loaded name. Whispers say he's into shipping, legit on paper, but docs have ears. I'll poke around, but keep it off the books. You stirring something?" "Just tying loose ends." Lena hung up, the phone heavy in her hand. Sleep evaded her that night, the city's distant sirens weaving through her dreams like threads of warning. Morning broke with a relentless drizzle, pattering against the window like impatient fingers. Lena arrived at the office early, the fluorescent buzz greeting her like an old foe. Rita slid a printout across her desk during coffee break, steaming mugs on formica, the scent of burnt grounds sharp. Plates registered to a Shell LLC out of Gary. No priors, but it's been spotted near union disputes at the ports. And Kane, clean record, but his company's got ties to, let's say, exclusive cargo. No red flags on the kid, though. Happy family man, on the surface. Lena traced the paper's edge, the ink smudging under her thumb. "Surface is right. Jamal's nanny. Any info?" Rita shrugged, glancing at the clock. "Fired last month per public records. Domestic dispute. But here's the kicker. A burner call logged to her number the night of the river. Short, encrypted. Coincidence? Not likely." Lena pocketed the printout, her mind racing to the dockside, Victor's evasive gaze over wine. He protected his own, but at what cost? As she headed out for a field visit, her phone vibrated. A blocked number. She answered warily. "Harper." "Lena." Victor's voice, low and edged with gravel. "Jamal wants to see his monster chaser. Park, noon. The lakeside path by Navy Pier. Come alone." She hesitated, the office chatter fading around her. Autonomy clashed with the pull of answers, the photo, the van, the threats. Why the rush? And what about last night? I was followed. A pause, the line humming. "That's why. Trust my code, Lena. No innocence. But the monsters. They're circling closer." He hung up, leaving the dial tone like a challenge. The park thrummed with midday energy, joggers pounding pavement, the lake wind whipping whitecaps against the pier's breakwater, seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp against the hum of tourist ferries. Lena spotted them near a cluster of benches, Victor in a wool coat, Jamal toddling beside him, clutching a fresh toy truck, its wheels gleaming. The boy broke into a run at the sight of her, small arms outstretched. "Monster chaser, Daddy said you'd come." She knelt, scooping him up, his laughter warm against the chill. Victor approached, hands in pockets, his eyes scanning the tree line. Subtle, but there, a behavioral tell, the tension in his shoulders. "He drew you a picture," Victor said, handing over a crayon scribble. Stick figures by a blue squiggle of river, a dark shape lurking beneath. Monsters from the water, his way of saying thanks. Lena studied it, the lines jagged, insistent. "Cute, but that van last night, was it yours?" His jaw tightened, grey eyes flicking to the path behind her. "No, rivals testing edges. Old grudge from the docks, shipping routes. In territories, I handle it my way." He crouched to Jamal's level, ruffling the boy's curls. "Are you the man who hurts monsters, Daddy?" Victor met her gaze over the child's head, a vow in the steel. Only the ones that deserve it, son. Legacy demands restraint. But as a jogger passed too slowly, phone in hand, Victor's hand twitched toward his coat. Instinct, code, held in check. They walked the path together, Jamal between them, his tiny hand in Victor's larger one, the other reaching for Lena's. The lake's spray misted their faces, salty and cold, but the ease felt fragile, like glass under pressure. Midway, Victor's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, face hardening. Compromised tail, we move now. He scooped Jamal up, nodding toward a waiting black SUV idling discreetly at the curb. Lena followed, heart thudding, but as they reached it, a low rumble echoed from the pier. A service boat chugging too close, crew eyeing them through binoculars. Not tourists. Victor's driver gunned the engine, pulling away just as the boat veered nearer, wake slapping the shore. Inside the SUV, safe for the moment, Jamal yawned against his father's chest. Did we chase them? Victor didn't answer, his arm protective around the boy. To Lena, dinner was the start. This is the debt deepening. Stay close or walk away while you can. She watched the pier recede, the boat's figures blurring into specks. Walk away. The picture in her pocket burned, Jamal's monsters too real. But whose hand guided the boat, and what grudge pulled the strings? As the SUV merged into traffic, another shadow vehicle peeled from a side street, closer this time, relentless. If you're enjoying this story so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The SUV sliced through the midday traffic like a shadow among the herds of taxis and delivery vans, the lake's grey expanse flashing between gaps in the high-rises. Lena pressed her palm against the cool window, the leather creaking under her shift as she stole glances in the side mirror. The pursuing vehicle, a silver crossover, unremarkable except for its persistent slot 2 cars back, wove with them, headlights dipping over potholes filled with rainwater. Victor's driver murmured into his radio, the static a low hiss blending with the whoosh of passing semis carrying crates stamped with port logos. Jamal fidgeted in his father's lap, oblivious to the tension, his small fingers tracing patterns on the window fog. Look, monster chaser, boats like big trucks on water. His voice piped up, innocent amid the undercurrent of unease. But Lena caught the way Victor's hand tightened on the boy's shoulder. Protective, restrained, a silent vow etched in muscle. Victor met her eyes in the reflection, his grey gaze steady as the steel girders of the elevated tracks overhead. They're probing, not striking yet. He pulled out his phone, thumbing through messages with efficient swipes. The screen's glow casting harsh lines on his face. Old rivals from the Gary docks thought they were sidelined after last year's route dispute, but grudges fester like rust on the pilings. Lena's mind flashed to Rita's printout, the Shell LLC, the burner call to the ex-nanny. That van last night had Gary plates, and the email threat, someone's got eyes on you, on us, beyond the river. Who's feeding them intel? He pocketed the phone, jaw set. Turncoats, always a weak link in the chain. Drivers, warehouse hands, even family staff. I run a tight operation. Manifests double-checked. Guards rotated every 4 hours. No loose ends. But humans, The SUV banked left onto a service road paralleling the lakefront. The air inside thickening with the scent of wet asphalt and faint exhaust seeping through the vents. Jamal yawned, nestling closer, his curls brushing Victor's chin. They pulled into an underground garage beneath a nondescript office tower, the ramp spiraling down into dim concrete bowels lit by buzzing halogens. Barriers rose and fell with a mechanical clunk, scanners beeping approval from the dash-mounted transponder. The silver crossover didn't follow. It idled at the entrance, then U-turned away, swallowed by the flow. Lena exhaled, but the relief soured quickly. Safety here felt borrowed, like a locked door in a storm. Victor led them to a private elevator, its doors whispering open to reveal mirrored walls and a faint hum of ventilation. Jamal clutched Lena's hand as they ascended, his palm warm and sticky from a juice box earlier. "Are we hiding from monsters now, Daddy?" "Something like that, son." Victor's voice softened, but his free hand hovered near his coat pocket, a tell of vigilance ingrained. The elevator dinged at the penthouse level, opening to a sprawling loft that blurred the line between luxury and fortress. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, but reinforced glass that hummed faintly with embedded security film. The air carried the polish of leather furniture and a hint of Jamal's crayons, scattered on a play rug amid minimalist decor, dark woods, abstract art that whispered of old-world restraint. A nanny, new, Lena noted with a fresh uniform and wary eyes, scooped Jamal up, murmuring about nap time. The boy waved sleepily. "Bye, monster chaser. Draw more pictures later?" She nodded, watching as he vanished down a hallway lined with discreet cameras, their lenses like unblinking eyes. Victor gestured to a bar cart, pouring 2 fingers of amber liquid into crystal tumblers. "Scotch, help settle the edges." He handed her one, the ice clinking softly, and they settled on a sectional facing the view. The lake churned below, freighters cutting white wakes, their horns distant and mournful. "You ask about intel. Fair. My code. No innocence, no needless blood, but protection demands eyes everywhere. CCTV feeds from the docks, encrypted apps for the crew, even satellite tracks on rival shipments. Last night, that van traced it to a low-level enforcer named Marco Ruiz. Ex-union, bitter over a lost contract. He's the probe, but someone's pulling his leash. Lena sipped the scotch, its smoke curling on her tongue, grounding her amid the swirl of revelations. "The ex-nanny? Fired after a dispute? Your dispute?" His eyes narrowed fractionally, a flicker of old pain. "She got too close to the edges. Started asking about the ledgers. I let her go clean, but grudges." He trailed off, setting his glass down with a precise clink. Jamal's mother. Gone 2 years now, accident on the expressway. Rivals tampered with the brakes, taught me restraint's the sharpest blade. I shield him from that world, but it creeps in, the river, the shadows. The confession hung, raw yet armored, pulling at Lena's own scars. Caseloads of fractured families, her sister's overdose years back, the helplessness of watching autonomy erode. "I get protection, but involving me, that's not shielding, it's exposure. Jamal's safe because of luck last night, not code." Victor's gaze held hers, intense, the room's hush broken only by the lake wind rattling the panes. "Luck? No, you were the variable they didn't count on, and now..." He stood, crossing to a console desk, pulling a slim ledger from a drawer, discreet, leather-bound, pages filled with coded entries, dates, routes, manifests scrubbed of names. This surfaced yesterday, a shipping log from Ruiz's crew, intercepted burner texts plotting a grab at the pier. Jamal's walk was no slip. They lured him out. Lena leaned in, scanning the scrawled notes. Coordinates near the river, a timestamp matching the storm, a reference to the kid's leverage. Her pulse thrummed. Leverage for what? Territory? More. Legacy. They think breaking me breaks the roots I control. Clean on paper, vital to the city. He closed the ledger, the snap echoing. I handle it my way. Extraction, not escalation. But you see the human side. Jamal asks if I'm the man who hurts monsters. Truth is, I contain them. For him, for what's mine. The words landed like a gauntlet, possessiveness laced with vulnerability, testing her independence against the pull of their shared orbit. Lena rose, the scotch warming her veins, but unease prickled. The windows reflected the loft security feeds on a side screen. Guards patrolling the garage below, one pausing to check a panel. And if containing them means dragging me deeper, I have a life, Victor, ethics that don't bend. He stepped closer, the space between them charged, his cologne, cedar and steel, mingling with the room's quiet. Then walk. But the photo you got, that's their warning. Stay, and you're under my watch. Not as debt, as choice. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed sharply, a priority alert. He glanced at it, face hardening. Compromised feed, garage level, intruders tripped a silent alarm. The building's lights flickered once, a brief blackout rippling through the loft, the lake view plunging into momentary shadow. Generators kicked in with a distant rumble, but in that instant, a distant thud echoed from below, metal on concrete like a forced gate yielding. Victor's hand went to his earpiece. Lockdown, secure the boy. To Lena. Elevator to the safe room, now. He guided her toward a hidden panel, the air thickening with urgency. But as the doors sealed behind them, she caught a glimpse through the feed, two figures in the garage, hoods up, prying at a service van's door. Not probes anymore, breach. And in the van's window, a glint of something small like a child's toy discarded in haste. Whose breach was this, and what had they left behind to draw them in? The safe room's door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, the reinforced steel panel blending seamlessly into the penthouse wall like a scar hidden under skin. Lena's back pressed against the cool metal as the elevator-like descent hummed to life, gravity shifting subtly underfoot. The air inside was sterile, laced with the faint ozone tang of electronics and recycled oxygen. A far cry from the loft's warm leather and crayon-scented play. Dim LED strips flickered on along the edges, casting a clinical blue glow over bare concrete walls embedded with ventilation grills and a bank of monitors that bloomed to life with a soft whir. Victor stood at the console, his fingers flying over a touchscreen interface, pulling up live feeds from the building's security grid. His face, illuminated by the screen's harsh light, was a mask of controlled fury, jaw clenched, eyes narrowing as he cycled through camera angles. Perimeter breach confirmed. 2 hostiles in the garage, armed but sloppy. Drivers holding the lobby, back up en route from the docks. His voice was low, clipped, the Eastern accent thickening under pressure, like gravel grinding in a storm drain. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs, the scotch from earlier churning in her stomach. She scanned the monitors. Grainy, black and white views of the garage showed the intruders, hooded figures in dark jackets, one jimmying a panel on what looked like a service van, the other scanning shadows with a handheld device, perhaps a signal jammer. The discarded toy glinted under a flickering halogen, a small plastic truck, wheels caked in mud, identical to Jamal's from the park. "That's his," she whispered, pointing. "They used it as bait. How did they know we'd come here?" Victor's gaze flicked to her, a flash of something raw, guilt perhaps, before he refocused. Planted during the tail, or worse, an inside job. My rotations are tight. Keycards scanned, logs audited daily, but if it's a turncoat... He tapped a sequence, zooming in on the van's side panel. A shipping manifest fluttered partially from the door, stamped with faded ink. Cargo Route 47 Gary, Kane Imports. The coordinates matched the ledger he'd shown her earlier, but a handwritten note scrawled in the margin caught her eye. Kid first, then the boss. The room's hum deepened as auxiliary power stabilized, but a distant thud reverberated through the walls, like boots on stairs, or a door giving way. Lena's mind raced, ethics clashing with the instinct to act. This wasn't her world. She documented fractures in families, not infiltrated them. Yet Jamal's drawing burned in her pocket, his monsters manifesting in pixels and steel. We can't just wait. If they're after leverage, the boy's the key. Call it in. Police, feds, anyone with badges. Victor's laugh was bitter, short as a suppressed shot, Badges, they tie hands. My code gets results. Contain, extract, no innocents dragged under. He pulled a slim tablet from a wall compartment, syncing it to the feeds. See that? Their jammers hit the elevators, jammed exits on sublevels, storms rolling in off the lake, power grids vulnerable, natural cover for them. Outside the monitors, the world pressed in. Rain lashed the penthouse windows above, visible in split screen, thunder rumbling like an approaching convoy. The safe room's air recyclers clicked faster, pulling in the faint metallic scent of the building's innards. Concrete dust and wiring insulation. Lena paced the narrow space, 3 steps one way, 3 back, her sneakers silent on the rubberized floor. Autonomy screamed to bolt, to reclaim her life of case files and quiet nights. But the pull, Victor's restrained power, Jamal's trusting hand in hers, tugged harder, a debt morphing into something perilously like alliance. He straightened, decision etched in his posture. We move. Service stairs to the roof, extraction chopper on standby. You with me or stay locked? She met his eyes, steel on resolve. With. But this ends clean. No more shadows for the kid. They slipped out as the lockdown protocols eased, the panel whispering open to a dimly lit corridor lined with emergency reds. Victor led, body low, a compact pistol drawn, but held low, code in action, not eagerness. Footsteps echoed from below, muffled by the storm's howl filtering through vents. The air grew heavier, laced with the sharp bite of wet earth from a drainage grate. Lena followed, pulse sinking to the rhythm of their advance, her hand brushing the wall for balance. A camera feed on Victor's tablet showed the garage chaos, the intruders retreating toward a side exit, one clutching a satchel, perhaps the ledger or worse, data drives from the van. Halfway up the stairwell, the lights stuttered again, a deliberate surge, the blackout plunging them into inky dark broken only by emergency strips. Jammers mobile, Victor muttered, flashlight beam cutting a path. They're flushing us. A door below banged open, voices filtering up, gruff, accented, coordinating in clipped bursts. Boss wants the woman too, leverage doubles. Lena's breath caught, the stairs' metal railing cold under her grip. They crested to the roof access, wind slamming in as Victor shouldered the hatch. Rain sheeted down, stinging like needles, the lake a roiling black void beyond the helipad's edge. Sodium lights from distant cranes pierced the squall, illuminating the chopper's blades already whirring to life. Victor's crew, loyal amid the gale. But as they sprinted across the slick gravel, a figure detached from the shadows near the service elevator, not an intruder, but one of the penthouse guards, face obscured by rain-slicked hood, hand raising a suppressor. Betrayal hit like the thunderclap. Victor pivoted, shoving Lena behind a vent stack, the shot whispering past. Silenced, but the ricochet sparked off metal. Traitor, he growled. Returning fire with precise bursts, the pistol's report muffled by the storm. The guard staggered, dropping a burner phone that skittered across the roof, screen glowing with a recent text. Breach clear, kid secure inside, extract now. The chopper's downdraft whipped the rain into frenzy, blades thumping like a heartbeat. Victor grabbed her arm, hauling her toward the open door as backup rotors echoed from the east. Rival air, closing fast. They lifted off, the city blurring below in sheets of water, the penthouse shrinking to a lit beacon amid the sprawl. Inside, Jamal's nanny radioed from below. Boy safe, but the loft ransacked, drawing scattered, a window forced. Lena wiped rain from her face, the cabin vibrating under her. Victor's wound, a graze on his shoulder, blood seeping through his coat, didn't slow him as he patched the tablet feed. The guard's phone log revealed it. Messages to Marco Ruiz. Timestamps aligning with the pier tail. Internal rot. A guard turned by grudge or gold. Cost of vigilance, Victor said, voice tight with pain and promise. But we contain it. And as the chopper banked toward a safe house on the city's edge, Lena watched the storm swallow the tower. Protection's price was exposure, but whose loyalty cracked first? The guards or the fragile trust building between them? And what secrets had the ransack unearthed in Jamal's world? The chopper's rotors thumped a relentless cadence against the storm's fury, slicing through veils of rain that hammered the windshield like frantic Morse code. Inside the cabin, the air was thick with the metallic bite of blood and the sharp ozone of electronics straining against interference. Victor slumped in the jump seat, his coat peeled back to reveal the graze on his shoulder, a ragged tear in fabric and flesh, seeping crimson onto a makeshift compress. He waved off the pilot's concerned glance, grey eyes fixed on the tablet in his lap, scrolling through fragmented security logs with a thumb that betrayed no tremor. Lena sat across from him, knees drawn up, the vibration rattling her bones. The safe house coordinates blinked on the screen, an old warehouse conversion on the industrial fringe, tucked against the Des Plaines River's muddy banks. "You need stitches," she said, voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Her social worker instincts kicked in, triage the visible wounds first. "That guard, how deep does the rot go?" Victor's lips curved in a grim half-smile, pain etching deeper lines around his mouth. "Deep enough to sting, but my code roots it out. No loose ends." He tapped the screen. Pulling up a grainy feed from the penthouse nanny cam, Jamal curled in a fortified nursery, thumb in mouth, oblivious to the chaos beyond the door. The boy's chest rose and fell in sleep, a small anchor in the digital storm. He's safe. That's what matters. The chopper banked sharply, descending toward a floodlit helipad ringed by chain link and razor wire, the warehouse looming like a concrete behemoth under sodium glows. Rain-slicked gravel crunched as they touched down, the downdraft whipping puddles into misty sprays that smelled of wet earth and diesel runoff. 2 armored SUVs waited, engines idling with low growls, flanked by 4 men in black tactical gear. Victor's inner circle, faces hard as the riverstones. They formed a tight perimeter as Victor and Lena disembarked, wind tearing at their clothes, the chill seeping through like accusation. Inside, the safe house unfolded in layers of fortified normalcy, a ground-floor ops room buzzing with radio chatter and the hum of servers, then stairs up to living quarters disguised as a modest family retreat. Wood-paneled walls, a kitchen redolent of fresh coffee and simmering stew, Jamal's toys scattered on a braided rug. The boy stirred as the nanny led him in, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his small frame dwarfed by an oversized sweater. "Monster chaser!" He toddled forward, latching onto Lena's leg, the warmth of him cutting through the damp cold clinging to her skin. She knelt, pulling him into a hug, his curls tickling her chin with the faint scent of baby shampoo amid the warehouse's underlying must. "Hey, buddy, we outran the storm." Jamal's brown eyes searched hers, then Victor's, wide with that unnerving toddler wisdom. "Did Daddy hurt the bad man?" Victor crouched beside them, wincing as his shoulder protested, but his voice stayed even, a vow wrapped in gravel. "Handled it, son. Monsters don't get close." He ruffled the boy's hair, the gesture tender yet edged with possession, the legacy of loss shaping every touch. Lena watched, the push-pull twisting inside her. This man's world offered protection like armor, but at the cost of her independence, her ethics bending under the weight of their shared peril. The ops team filtered in, a wiry tech named Elias unrolling a tablet synced to the penthouse breach. The air grew taut with the click of keyboards and the low murmur of voices, coffee steam curling like fog from mugs. "Ransack was surgical," Elias reported, his accent clipped Midwestern. "Targeted the study, ledgers gone, but they missed the backup drive in the wall safe. And this." He projected a photo. A discarded burner phone on the loft floor, screen cracked but active, a partial message visible. Extraction complete. Kane's woman is the key. Use her to draw him out. Meet at the old tunnel under Halstead Zo 200. Lena's pulse spiked, the words landing like ice water. Me? Why? She glanced at Victor, who studied the image with predatory focus, his uninjured hand clenching the armrest. Leverage, he said flatly, rising to pace the room, the floorboards creaking under his boots. Ruiz's crew thinks you're in deep. Witness to the river. Soft spot for Jamal. They hit the nanny first, used her old grudge to plant the lure at the park. That guard, paid off via anonymous wire, traced to a Gary account, same LLC as the van. He stopped, eyes locking on hers, the room's shadows playing across his face. My fault. I should have cut ties cleaner after Elena's accident. Rivals see weakness in family. Strike there. Jamal tugged at Lena's sleeve, oblivious to the undercurrents. Draw pictures? No monsters. She nodded, sketching a quick river scene on a notepad to distract him, but her mind raced. The ex-nanny's burner call, the tampered manifest. Now this tunnel meet, a web of human error and betrayal. No ghosts, just greed unraveling the seams. Tension coiled as night deepened, the river outside murmuring against pilings, distant thunder rumbling like approaching trucks. Victor coordinated via encrypted line, dispatching a scout team to the Halstead Tunnel, a disused freight passage under the city, damp with seepage and echoing with drips. I'm perfect for ambushes. We flip it, he told his men, voice low. Infiltrate, intercept their handoff, no escalation, observe, contain. But as Elias cross-checked access codes, an alert pinged. A guard rotation anomaly. One of the warehouse perimeter team missing check-in, his vehicle spotted near the river bridge. Compromised here? Lena whispered, scooping Jamal up as the boy yawned. Victor's face darkened, hand drifting to his bandaged shoulder. Possible. Storms jamming signals. Natural cover. He nodded to the team. Lock external doors, double sentries. Lena, stay with the kid in the inner room. She carried Jamal to the nursery, a cozy nook with barred windows overlooking the water, the air soft with lavender from a diffuser. As she tucked him in, the boy's small hand clasped hers. Are you staying, monster chaser, with Daddy? The question hung, mirroring her own turmoil, loyalty versus the fear of entrapment, trust tested by the night's shadows. Downstairs, a muffled thud echoed, perhaps a branch against the wall or a boot on gravel. Victor appeared in the doorway, pistol holstered but ready, his gaze pulling her like gravity. They're closing the net, but we break it first. Outside headlights pierced the rain, uninvited and closing fast. Whose turncoat had sold the safe house coordinates, and what price would loyalty demand this time? If this tale already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more hidden stories to light. The rain intensified as the headlights pierced the warehouse's gloom, twin beams slicing through the downpour like accusatory fingers. Inside the nursery, Lena held Jamal close, his small body a warm weight against her chest, his breathing steady in the lavender-scented hush. The diffuser hummed softly, a futile counterpoint to the storm's roar outside, where the Des Plaines River swelled against its banks, carrying the faint rot of silt and industrial waste. She peered through the barred window, the reinforced glass cool under her palm, but the shadows beyond the floodlights twisted into vague shapes, trees bending or figures advancing. Downstairs, Victor's voice cut through the radio static, low and commanding. Eyes on the approach, 2 vehicles unmarked, hold fire, identify first. The ops room buzzed with tension, the scent of cooling coffee turning bitter as Elias hunched over his console, fingers dancing across keys. Screens flickered with perimeter cams, the missing guard's SUV idling at the gate, rain sheeting off its hood, but no driver visible. A second vehicle pulled up behind, a battered pickup, plates muddied, its cab empty under the wiper's frantic swipe. Lena's pulse thrummed, ethics warring with the instinct to shield the boy. Jamal stirred, murmuring in his sleep, his tiny hand clutching her shirt like a lifeline. Monsters. The word echoed his earlier question, pulling at her, the innocence caught in Victor's code of restraint, a legacy built on containing threats without shattering the fragile. She eased him onto the bed, tucking the blanket around his curls, then slipped to the door, cracking it just enough to hear the escalating chatter. "Gates jammed," Elias reported, voice tight. "Remote hack. Same signature as the penthouse jammer. They're stalling us." A metallic clang reverberated from outside, like a chain snapping, followed by the grind of tires on gravel. Victor's silhouette moved in the hallway, his bandaged shoulder stiff under the tactical vest he'd donned, pistol holstered at his hip. He met her eyes, the grey steel softened by urgency. "Stay put. This is containment. My way." But as he turned, a sharp crack split the air. Not thunder, but glass shattering in the ops room. Alarms wailed, red lights pulsing like a frantic heartbeat. Lena scooped Jamal up, the boy's eyes fluttering open in confusion. "Daddy!" She backed into the room's corner, barricading the door with a heavy dresser, its legs scraping the floorboards with a protesting groan. The air thickened with the acrid tang of smoke. Staged. A diversion. Wisps curling under the door from below, the warehouse's old wiring sparking under sabotage. Victor's shout carried through the chaos. Molotov through the window. Extinguishers now. Footsteps pounded, the team's radios overlapping in clipped bursts. Perimeter down, 2 tangos inside, heading for the stairs. Lena's mind raced, piecing the logistics. The missing guard's vehicle as bait. The hack exploiting the storm's signal interference, human error in rotation logs, letting the breach slip. No supernatural veil, just rivals exploiting cracks, turning the safe house's isolation against them. Jamal whimpered, burying his face in her neck, his breath hot and ragged. "Scared, monster chaser." She rocked him gently, whispering assurances, but her free hand fumbled for her phone, signal weak, but a text to Rita squeezed through. "Safe house compromised. Riverfront. Send help." No response. The bars flickering to 0 as the jammer tightened its grip. Outside the window, shadows detached from the tree line. 3 figures advancing low, rain masking their steps. One carrying a suppressed rifle slung low. Professional, not the sloppy probes of before. The door rattled, a heavy thud against the wood. "Lena!" Victor's voice, strained but close. "Inner breach contained. Elias took a hit, but we're extracting. Roof access. Move!" She dragged the dresser aside, Jamal clinging like a koala, and cracked the door. Smoke billowed in the hall, stinging her eyes. The warehouse groaning under the fire's creep, deliberate, fed by accelerant from the intruder's toss. Victor appeared at the far end, bloodied but unbowed, his team flanking him, one supporting Elias, whose arm hung limp, a graze mirroring Victor's own. They hustled up the service stairs, the metal treads slick with tracked-in rain, echoing their labored breaths. The air grew colder, laced with the river's brine seeping through vents, the storm's wind howling as they burst onto the roof. No chopper this time, the gale too fierce, rotors grounded at the docks. Instead, a concealed ladder dropped to a loading dock below, SUVs revving in wait, their headlights cutting fog like blades. But as Victor lowered Jamal to Lena, a shot whispered from the shadows, silenced, pinging off the railing inches from his head. "Cover!" he fired back, the pistol's muzzle flash illuminating a rival sniper on the adjacent warehouse roof, rain-slicked poncho flapping like a cape. The team returned fire, bullets ricocheting in the downpour, the exchange a staccato rhythm against the thunder. Lena clutched Jamal, descending the ladder one-handed, her muscles burning, the boy's weight a reminder of the stakes, no innocence. But here they were, collateral in a grudge war. They piled into the lead SUV, tires spinning on wet gravel as it lurched forward. The second vehicle laying suppressive fire. The warehouse receded in the mirrors, flames licking its eaves, a staged blaze to cover the escape, or trap them. Victor radioed ahead. "Convoy to the tunnels! Reroute via the old freight line. No tails." But Elias, pale in the back seat, coughed up a warning. "The guard!" He texted coordinates before we downed him. "Ruiz has the full grid. Ledgers. Rotations. It's deeper than Marco. Someone in the core." Betrayal's sting hit Victor like the graze on his shoulder, his face hardening in the dash glow. Lena met his gaze, Jamal dozing against her despite the jolts, the SUV splashing through flooded streets toward the city's underbelly. The tunnels loomed ahead, dark veins under Halstead, damp with seepage and echoes. A perfect ambush site from the burner message. Trust fractured, suspicion coiling like the river's current. Was the core rot Elias's fevered guess, or a named ghost from Victor's past? As the convoy plunged into the access grate, lights dimming to infrared, the first echo of pursuit rumbled behind, closing, relentless. The tunnel's maw swallowed the lead SUV whole, tires churning through ankle-deep seepage that sloshed against the undercarriage like a reluctant tide. Infrared lights pierced the gloom ahead, casting elongated shadows on the curved concrete walls, where rivulets of condensation traced veins down to grates clogged with decades of debris. The air inside thickened with the musty reek of mold and stagnant water, undercut by the acrid bite of overheated brakes, as the driver navigated the narrow freight passage, once a vein for coal cars, now a forgotten artery under Halstead's bustling veins. Lena cradled Jamal in the back seat, the boy's head lolled against her shoulder, his soft snores a fragile counterpoint to the engine's growl. Victor's hand rested on the seatback between them, knuckles white, his bandaged shoulder seeping fresh through the compress under his vest. Elias groaned beside her, clutching his arm, the team's medic working a tourniquet with efficient snaps. "Signal's dead down here," the driver radioed over the partition, voice echoing in the confined space. "Jammer's got us blind. Rear convoy reports tails, 3 vehicles closing the grate behind." Victor's jaw tightened, grey eyes reflecting the dash glow as he scanned a handheld GPS, synced to the tunnel's outdated schematics. "Push to the junction, old service bay. We bottleneck them there." His code thrummed in the words, contain, not destroy, legacy demanding precision over chaos. But the rumble grew, engines revving in pursuit, headlights blooming in the mirrors like predatory eyes. Human error had led here. The guard's betrayal feeding coordinates to Ruiz's network, rotations compromised by a single wire transfer, the storm masking their infiltration like a natural ally. The junction loomed, a wider chamber where side tunnels branched like cracked ribs, lit by sporadic emergency bulbs flickering on backup batteries. The driver braked hard, gravel spraying, as the SUV skidded to a halt beside a rusted loading platform. The rear vehicle pulled abreast, doors flying open to disgorge the team, silhouettes against the sodium haze, rifles low, forming a defensive arc. Victor exited first, pistol drawn, motioning Lena out with Jamal. "Safe bay, behind the crates. Stay low." She complied, ducking into the shadows of stacked pallets warped by humidity, the wood splintery under her palms, splintered edges catching on Jamal's sweater. The boy stirred, eyes fluttering open to the dim. "Monsters in the dark?" His whisper cut through the tension, small hand finding hers amid the crate's musty scent. "Shh! We're chasing them away," Lena murmured, heart pounding as the pursuit erupted into the chamber. Tires screeched. The lead rival vehicle, a reinforced van, plates from the Gary LLC, barreling in with a sideswipe that crumpled a guardrail. 2 more pickups followed, disgorging hooded figures who fanned out, suppressed weapons barking in staccato bursts that pinged off concrete and sparked against metal. Victor's team returned fire, controlled volleys pinning them behind debris. The exchange a deadly chess in the confined space. No gore, just the sharp crack of ricochets and the acrid tang of cordite mingling with the tunnel's damp rot. Victor crouched near her, covering their flank, his breath steady despite the graze. Ruiz himself. Front vehicle. He's here for the ledger data, the kid as bait. A bullet whined past, embedding in a crate inches away, splintering wood. Lena pulled Jamal tighter, her mind flashing to the river's edge. This was the organized threat unveiled, not probes, but a coordinated strike exploiting betrayals. The ex-nanny's grudge, the guard's greed, manifests tampered to lure them underground. Victory would cost. Elias slumped against the wall, hit worsening, while a team member dragged another to cover, leg trailing blood. "Flank left! Cut their exit!" Victor barked, signaling a pair of his men to circle via a side passage, their boots splashing through puddles. The rivals pressed, Ruiz's voice booming from the van's open door, gruff, laced with old-world inflection. "Kane, hand over the roots and the boy, or your woman's next. Legacy ends in the mud." Victor's response was a single shot, shattering the van's headlight, plunging that flank into deeper shadow. "You touch mine, you drown in it." Restraint held, but pressure mounted. The tunnel groaned under the barrage, a loose panel clanging free, dust sifting down like ash. Lena's phone vibrated faintly, Rita's reply breaking through the jammer's edge. "Units en route. Hold." External aid, institutional limits bending under the storm's chaos. The turning point came swift. Victor's flankers emerged from the side tunnel, lobbing flashbangs that erupted in blinding pops, disorienting the rivals. Chaos bloomed, engines revving in retreat, one pickup fishtailing into a wall with a crumpling crunch, blocking the junction. Victor surged forward, team converging, forcing Ruiz's van to reverse amid shouts and slipping tires. A final exchange, then the pursuers broke, peeling back into the dark, their taillights fading like retreating ghosts. Sirens wailed distantly above, the cavalry closing from the surface. Credible backup, drawn by Lena's text and the fire's glow. As the dust settled, Victor lowered his pistol, scanning for threats, his face streaked with grime and rain. Elias was stabilized, the wounded extracted to the waiting SUVs, but the cost etched deep. The safe house lost, ledgers compromised in the penthouse ransack, Victor's shoulder needing real care. He turned to Lena, Jamal now awake and clinging to both of them, the boy's wide eyes reflecting the flickering bulbs. "It's over. Ruiz runs. But the cause exposed, clean sweep tomorrow." Lena nodded, exhaustion mingling with resolve, the push-pull resolving into something forged, autonomy yielding to chosen alliance, ethics aligning with his code. For the kid. And us. Jamal looked up, tiny hand in Victor's larger one, the other in hers. "You hurt the monsters, Daddy? With Monster Chaser?" Victor's gaze softened, a vow in the steel. "Together, son. That's the legacy. No rings or grand pledges yet, but the commitment hummed, protection earned through the night's fire, trust built on shared extraction, a future sketched in the tunnel's echoes." Hours later, at a discreet clinic on the city's edge, the storm ebbed to a drizzle, pattering against reinforced windows. Stitches closed wounds, reports filed under the radar. Feds tipped anonymously, rivals scattered by dawn raids on their Gary dens. Victor watched Lena from the doorway as she read to Jamal in a recovery room, the boy's laughter bubbling like a balm. The river outside murmured softly, secrets contained, the air fresh with possibility. The adventure's scars lingered, injuries bandaged, betrayals rooted out. But what remained outshone the spoils. Loyalty tempered in the dark, memories of hands clasped against the tide, a found family rising from the depths. Victor stepped in, joining them on the bed, the three forming a quiet circle. Power's code had bent for this, restraint yielding to redemption, and in the quiet, it felt like treasure unearthed. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of loyalty, danger, and found family. See you in the next story.